On today's installment of Weekend Wankshop, we're going to be digging into the awesome guitar solo from Dance Macabre by Ghost. Hey there kids, and welcome to this week's installment of Weekend Wankshop. Here's your best buddy, Uncle Ben. So last week Ghost unveiled their new album Prequelle, and it seems to be getting kind of a love it or leave it response from fans. I think it's got some really cool stuff on it. But one thing that's pretty inarguable is that it has some really bitchin' guitar solos on there, like this one from the song Dance Macabre. But as always, before we start cracking down on these tasty licks in the name of Satan, let's hear it again at Step Papa speed. And as always, for a full tab for this lesson, as well as other Ghost tunes like Ritual and Rats, you guys can visit my Instagram page over at Ben Eller Guitars. Find the tab for this week's lesson, learn how to play it, then upload a video of yourself shredding through it, along with the hashtag Weekend Wankshop. First things first, you got to be playing in the right tuning in order to play this solo correctly. And like a lot of other Ghost tunes, it is tuned down one whole step. So you're going to be tuning D, G, C, F, A, D. And because somebody inevitably will ask what string gauges I'm using, I use Diodario 10 through 46, just a regular 10 gauge set on a Strat scale length guitar. If you're playing a Les Paul or something, you might want to try something more like a set of 11s. That might be a little bit more accommodating for this low tuning. So the first thing we're going to do in this solo is this unison bend. And we're going to do that by putting your first finger on the 17th fret high E, and you're going to be putting your ring finger on the 20th fret B string. And I like to put my middle finger behind it too, also on the B string, that way I can get two guys on the job to make that bend a little bit easier. Now what you're going to do is you're going to strike both of those strings together and then bend just the B string up a whole step so that they're in tune with each other. And then do it again. And then do it a third time. Notice that with those first two, you didn't hear the bend go up and down like that. You just heard it go up and then immediately drop to do the next one. Now on the next time you do this bend, what you're going to do is take it up, but then what you're going to do is to ditch the high E string. It doesn't sound like he does this with both those notes ringing together. It sounds like the bend goes up with both strings and comes down with just the B string. It's kind of a tricky move. Be sure as you let off the high E string not to sound it out, make a pull off happen or anything. Then you play these double stops. Now what I'm doing there is I'm playing the D and G on 17. Then I'm going to make it into a power chord. So I'm going to grab the D17 and the G19. Then I'm going to go back to the one finger bar on both strings on 17. So you've just done this. After this, there's a little subtle thing I just noticed as I was making this lesson video here. He hits the open G and B strings. This is just probably the result of him just kind of, jamming, keeping in time here, and he hits some open strings. It's kind of an accident, but it sounds cool because it's in key. After you do the two open strings, you're going to grab the 17 on the D and the 16 on the G. Notice how I changed my fingering here, so I'm on middle and 1. After this, hit that open G and B again. Your bar on the 17th fret D and G 2 times. Then you're going to hit those open strings, G and B again, and then go back to your little major third dyad that you played like that, 17D, 16G. The open string thing, it doesn't have to be in there, but it's cool to recognize it because I think it kind of grooves a little bit harder when you play it that way. After that, we get this lick on the high E string. Now, this is just basically me hitting the open on the high E, hammering onto 1, hammering to 3, pull off to 1, hammer to 3, pull off to 1. So notice that was only one pick stroke. Next, do the same idea, but utilizing the 7th and 8th fret. So I'm going to hit the open E, hammer to 7, hammer to 8, pull to 7, hammer to 8, pull to 7. Again, one pick stroke. So you got one pick stroke here, another here. Then you're going to basically play the first lick again. Open, 1, 3, 1, 3, 1. Now after you play that, we're going to change to the B string right here. I'm playing the open, hammer into 1, hammer into 3, sliding to 8. So that's... After that, again, off of the same pick stroke that you made, to slide to 8, slide to 15, and then slide to 20. Now what he does there is he slides up to 20, and then picks it again. So it's like So that's a lot of moves going across the B string like that. So be sure to keep good firm pressure as you're sliding across that string. So next what you're going to do is off of that 20th fret B string that you hit, you're going to slide down to the 8 really fast. So same string, but down to the 8th fret. What I recommend is anytime you're making like a huge fretboard position change like that, a lot of people I see, they try to like track their finger with their eyes, and you really can't track that way. It's moving too fast for you to keep up with. What I recommend is, you land up here on the 20, and then you're going to put your eyeballs right here on the 8th fret, and then just basically slide down until you're in your line of vision. To me, that kind of thing always makes position shifts a lot easier than trying to watch where your finger is going and hope it lands on the right fret. So after you reach that 20, don't keep babysitting it, staring at it. Start finding that 8th fret so you can slide down to it really quickly. After you reach the 8, you're going to play the G on 5, and then slide to 7, and then pick it the 7 again. I've seen some recent video of the guy that's playing lead for Ghost Live right now, of him playing the this part, actually still on the B string on 1 to 3. I can't guarantee the guy that's playing with him played the solo on the record, so I'm not exactly sure. I've seen him do some other stuff differently than what's on the album too. He puts like a little tapped part in the Rat solo, for example. So I know he's doing some things differently than they were on the album. But to me, to my ears, it sounds like you can hear that shift of position and then the tonal shift that kind of indicates he changed strings rather than playing on the same string like that. So take that with a grain of salt. It is the right notes though. Now, coming out of that section is where we get into this awesome arpeggio-based section. And kids, take note on this stuff, man. This is just really great, smart use of arpeggios. He's not just sweeping up and down them like you hear the king of Guitar Center doing all the time. These are really tasteful, nicely embellished arpeggios that follow the chord progression that's going on behind them really, really well. So how we're going to play this part here is to start off with an F arpeggio. This is starting off on the 8th fret high E string, 10th fret B, 10th fret G. Again, those right there form an F major arpeggio, which matches the chords behind it really nicely. Then you're going to play this C arpeggio. This is the 8 on the high E, 8 on the B, 9 on the G. Then we're going to play this. That's the 10th high E, 8th high E. Then we're going to play 7 on the E, 8 on the B, and 7 on the G. That lands you in a G arpeggio, which matches the chords in the rhythm guitar again. Next we play this. Again, very nice phrase, follows the chords beautifully. They do this in a lot of their solos actually. It's kind of a Ghost trademark. What you're going to do is to play the 10 on the B, then the 12 on the B, then you're going to play the C arpeggio again. So that's 8th E, 8th B, nice G. Then you gotta play the G arpeggio again. 7 high E, 8 B, 7 G, and then this. So this is so far. And then the next lick I played right there was 8 on the E, 7 on the E, 5 on the E, 6 B, 5 G. That lands you in an F arpeggio. Again, matching the chords going on behind it. So far you should have this. The next section is moving up the neck quite a bit here. I'm gonna play the 15 on the B, the 17 on the B, and then this is basically like a D minor arpeggio. I'm gonna play the 13th high E, 15th B, 14th G. Think about your common D minor chord shape, just moved up an octave. It's a good way to visualize that. Then you're gonna play a C arpeggio. This is 12th high E, 13th B, 12th G. Then we have this. So coming off of the C arpeggio, you gotta play 15th B, 13th B, 12th B, 15th high E, 15th B. Now you could like roll that if you wanted to, but we got some slides coming up and I would rather do the slides off of my 3rd finger. So I'm gonna go from 4th finger to 3rd finger. Play that 15th B again and give it a slide to 17. 15th B, 13th B, play the 15 sliding to 17 again, then play 2 15th Bs together like that. And then you got 2 options here because there's a little harmony on the record, and I did it on my cover too. That's probably the one your ear hears the most. That's me grabbing the 20th fret B string and giving it a whole step bend, then doing another whole step bend, letting it down, and then picking the 20. So that's a bend up and down, and then just this neutral 20th fret note. And some juicy vibrats. Now, the other guitar though, there's a little overdub on here that does for that ending part, so you get this nice harmony. This is the 16 on the G, doing a half step bend, and then again, pick it again, half step bend, let it up and down, and then pick just a 16 neutral. So you can end there or end high. Either way is just fine. And that is the entire solo. Let's hear it again from the top here. Starts off with those unison bends. Again, the unison only goes up, comes down just one note. Then we got our double stops with our open strings. The high E string legato thing. Switching to the B string. And our arpeggio section. One more thing I want to mention, this solo isn't too terribly hard to play, but if there's one section that's going to give a lot of you guys trouble, it's probably the arpeggio section. While I was playing through it slowly there, I was just kind of using whatever felt good, but I would really recommend working on playing that section with cross picking, just straight up, down, and up. A lot of times whenever we see, notes appearing on consecutive strings, our, guitar center instinct is to sweep it and go up, 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 or something like that. And you can, but I bet that if you practice this with the cross picking thing where it's just down, up, down, even though I'm traveling through the strings like this and it's kind of inefficient, I bet that you'll find your rhythm and timing is just a lot better if you play it that way. It's also just really great practice to do that kind of thing. So if you can alternate pick arpeggios going through the strings, you can do just about anything. So as you practice those parts, do try to get this cross pick and jam going on. You won't regret it. Hail Satan. What a fun little tune that is. To me, that song really just sounds like ABBA with electric guitars and devilry in it, and I'm very, very, very okay with that. Thank you guys so much for watching. You guys can follow me on Instagram at Ben Eller Guitars, or over on my Facebook fan page at facebook.com/Uncle Ben Eller. And if you're interested in booking some one-on-one Skype lessons, be sure to drop me an email. benellerguitars@gmail.com is where you can reach me. Thanks again for watching. Now get off of this doggone computer and go play some guitar. Less clicking, more picking.